hear that? That sound actually became a worldwide #1 hit. Drop a comment if you know the song. G'day, good to have you along. We're on the corner of George and Liverpool, a spot where a basic 2-bedroom apartment behind me will now set you back over $2 million. Looking up there, you can see the old monorail platforms. A bit of a 1980s futuristic dream that didn't quite go the distance, but the real estate it services is now some of the most expensive on earth. Instead of the monorail, Sydney now has the light rail. This infrastructure project alone cost around $3 billion to get running. It's a massive contrast standing on the oldest street in Sydney, an old 1700s bullock track that's now sitting on top of billions in modern investment. It's a long way from the gritty industrial wharf side this used to be. So, what's this walk all about? Well, we're heading away from the usual tourist tracks to find the layers of Sydney that most people just rush past. We're tracing the line where the old industrial warehouse district meets the heart of Chinatown. Along the way, we're going to find a hidden piece of 90s infrastructure that's been frozen in time for decades, right in the middle of the CBD. It's about seeing the city as it really is, quiet, mid-morning, and full of these architectural secrets that tell the story of how Sydney became such a global powerhouse. Over there is a facade from 1896, and if you look at the very top, you'll see the year and the motto, Deo Fidans Profitio. That was the mark of the Horden family. It translates to, trusting in God, I prosper. This wasn't just a shop, it was a statement by the Hordens, who were basically the retail kings of Australia for a century. They were famous for saying they sold everything from a needle to an anchor. Now, their massive flagship store used to be exactly where World Square is today, but this facade is one of the few pieces of their empire still standing exactly as it was. Guys, do me a quick favour, hit that like button. If we can get enough likes on this, we can break the algorithm together and get these videos out to more people just like you who love the hidden side of the city. It only takes a second, but it makes a massive difference to the channel. Looking back that way, you can really see how the street is framed by these old survivors. This intersection was the heart of Sydney's Spanish Quarter. Over on the left is the Sanctuary Hotel. For nearly 40 years, that was the famous Don Quixote restaurant. And across the road is Danchin House, built as a merchant warehouse in 1895. Back in the day, this whole block was filled with the sounds of flamenco and the smell of incredible food. Most of that community has moved on now, but these buildings remain as a quiet reminder of that cultural chapter. It's a bit of a lost history now, squeezed in between the modern city towers. As we get closer to the Sussex Street corner, the architecture starts to feel a bit more solid, and there's a reason for that. Back in the late 1800s, this whole area was considered a dangerous slum. It was crowded and damp and lacked any real sanitation. When the bubonic plague hit the wharves nearby in 1900, the government didn't just clean up, they went on a massive demolition spree. They tore down the old slum housing and replaced it with these high-end, purpose-built warehouses. They wanted buildings that were easier to keep clean and fireproof. What we're looking at now is the result of that great cleanup, a complete reimagining of Sydney's industrial fringe. It's funny to think that the beautiful brickwork we admire today was actually born out of a citywide panic. We're turning left now into the north end of Dixon Street. This is the heart of Sydney's Chinatown. It's early, so the shutters are still down, but in a few hours, this street will be absolutely packed. What I love about this end of the street is how it's become a global destination for food. We're talking about generations of families who brought their recipes from Canton, Hainan, and all over Asia to these very storefronts. It's not just about the dining though, it's about the community that's held this precinct together for over 100 years. Even when the city around it was changing at light speed, Chinatown stayed the anchor for the migrant experience in Sydney. It's a place that really shows the best of our multicultural history. While we've got a bit of quiet, I really want to acknowledge our own growing community here. A huge shout out to our latest channel members. For the Burbs, Tony from Sydney, and Spilt Milk 101. Your support is what makes these uncut dives into the city's layers possible. If you want to join the membership or even just buy me a coffee to keep the walks going, check the link in the description. Every bit of support really helps a small channel like this. Look at the tower on the corner here. That's the Sydney Trades Hall. It was designed by John Smedley, our first locally born architect, and for over 130 years, it's been the engine room of social change in Australia. When this opened in 1895, it was the tallest thing around, acting like a beacon for the wharfies and labourers coming up the hill from the harbour. Inside, they still have one of the world's most significant collections of Union banners, relics of a city that was built on hard manual labour. We've taken a quick ride here to see one of the most powerful sights in the CBD. Looming over us is the face of Aunty Jenny Munro. She's a Wiradjuri elder and a legend in the fight for Aboriginal rights. This portrait was painted by the artist Matt Adnate, and it's 10 stories of pure resolve. It's meant to make you stop and think about the struggle that's happened right here on this land long before the high-rises went up. It's a beautiful, quiet moment in the middle of all this concrete. Seeing her watching over the city like this, it really gives you a different perspective on what we call home. Check this out. There's that relic we were talking about earlier. It's funny, isn't it? Most people never really get down this far to notice it, but that's actually the old Garden Plaza station. It's a bit of a ghost, really. Even though the monorail started back in the 80s, this station didn't even open until 2001 because the building took so long to finish. So for 13 years, the trains just cruise right through this empty glass box. It's a strange little time capsule just sitting there frozen above the traffic. A bit of a reminder of a future Sydney that didn't quite pan out. We're entering the final stretch of Dixon Street now, and you can see why this walk feels a bit different today. This entire precinct is in the middle of a massive multi-million-dollar revitalisation. The City of Sydney is currently halfway through a project that hasn't been seen since these gates were first put up in 1980. They're laying down new paving inspired by traditional Chinese motifs like the Five Blessings, and they've already restored the ceremonial gates we're heading for at the end. The goal is to have the groundwork finished by mid-2026, with a whole new creative lighting system coming next year. It's all about bringing that vibrant energy back to the street while protecting the heritage of the small lot buildings that have been here for over a century. As we make our way down this final stretch of Dixon Street, it's worth looking past the construction for a moment. See some of these older, narrow shop fronts? They've been the backbone of this community for over a century. There's a building here, number 82, known as the Kwong War Chong. Back in the early 1900s, this wasn't just a shop, it was a sanctuary. When new migrants arrived from China with almost nothing, this was their first port of call. The people here would help them find work, hold their savings like a community bank, and even help them send letters back home. It's that spirit of looking out for each other that built Chinatown, and seeing the city invest so much into this revitalisation now, it feels like a well-deserved tribute to that resilience. They aren't just fixing the street, they're honouring 100 years of survival. I often think about how savage time can be to a city like ours. We're so quick to build the next future, but as we saw with the monorail today, the future doesn't always go to plan. That's why these quiet walks are so important. They let us see the layers, the Spanish Quarter, the labour movement, and the migrant sanctuaries all existing together. The goal isn't to stop the change. It's to make sure that as we revitalise and move forward, we don't lose the very things that made us a global destination in the first place. Just a quick bit of news before I go. A true Chinatown legend, the golden water tree, is actually being removed. If you want to see it one last time, make sure you come down soon before it's gone for good. If you've enjoyed the walk, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It really helps the channel. And a massive thank you to my members for your ongoing support. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.